Congrats on Young
Oh,
Werther. I had such a fun time watching this. And this starts very meta. It references the book throughout in some fun ways. I was curious what your kind of history was with The Sorrows of Young Werther, which is this classic book. I've never read it, and I've just gone down this rabbit hole since then. But did you ever read it or watch one of the
I read
adaptations?
it. I read it once a year. I just, I have it by the bed at all times. No, I had never heard of this book until I received this script and started reading it. I thought, what is this? And did a little bit of research about the book, and then talked to Jose, and had him explain it to me more and why it was so relevant and such a sort of controversial book at the time. And so, no, this was my first experience of the story. And it's been fascinating to to make a film based on something I'd never heard of and now learn more about the source material. And Jose sort of got such a funny approach to the book. He's found a book that most people don't, obviously remember. It's from 1774. So, and to bring it into this new world it just was sort of hilarious and wonderful. And I've loved learning more about it.
Yeah, it's so interesting how this book from, hundreds of years ago can be updated and so much about the text still hits. It kind of shows how, like, despite how much has changed, like the human emotion and human relationships have kind of, largely stayed the same despite hundreds of years.
I think what he did that was really brilliant, though, is, obviously in the original book, it was a bit more of a tragedy. I believe Werther actually successfully kills himself at the end, and obviously a deeply controversial book at the time, End of the Enlightenment, a book that was about passion versus rationality, human emotion and love and unrequited love sort of overtaking this character to the point where he takes his own life. Like, and I guess that inspired like a lot of young men taking their own lives. Like, it was very, very, very controversial at the time. And I love that Jose has taken that and brought it into the new world. And yes, it has so many relevancies, but he also by changing it and turning the dial a little bit and having the tragedy of it not have to be so tragic, and making it sort of it's to call it a romantic comedy is too much of a reduction, but to make it more charming and more relatable and not quite as dark by the end of it, I think was a stroke of genius. And I think there's enough time between the original novel and now that you don't have young Werther fans up in arms about changing the source material.
Yeah, it's a really lovely ending too, and your character's interesting because he's so career driven that it jeopardizes this relationship with his fiance that is obviously means so much to him. And you famously left Suits to spend more time with your family. Was that sort of a way to did that kind of make you empathize more with this character since you've been in that type of impasse where your career and personal life are clashing?
Yeah, I think where I deeply relate to it, Albert, is the workaholicism, the like, oh, this is how I am a responsible human in the world. I have to meet my responsibilities. I need to be working. I need to be, um, you know, engrossed in my work at all times. That's like my calling. I saw that in Albert. I think what I was also taken with in his character is that didn't come, it came at the expense of his ability to spend time with Charlotte. But it didn't come at the expense of his love for her. It didn't make him like in other films, this person is the cold, distant, not loving, not joyful, person who's so engrossed in their work they can't do anything else. And in this, I saw what Jose was doing with Albert. And I think this is also, again, I haven't read the original book from the research I've done, though, and talking to Jose, it is a quality of Albert in the original book, too, which is that while he is a rational, hardworking, respectable person in the world, he's not cold, and he's not like his back isn't turned to his family. He doesn't have the time to spend that Werther does, throwing himself wholeheartedly into this romantic relationship or what he's trying to build towards a romantic relationship. And I relate to that. I relate to like I work sometimes too hard. I obsess over work. I want to be in the thick of it, But I don't think that totally comes at the cost of my being a good dad or a good partner. It's a fine balance. And Albert is maybe headed in a little, and maybe through, the what happens in this film, he sees that he's pushed it a little too far and he needs to recommit to his wife and his family. Um, and I feel like I've, spent my whole life in that same sort of dichotomy of like trying to find that perfect balance that I think so many of us do.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the most interesting parts because, like you mentioned, it'd be so easy to make him a one-note villain, and instead, Werther, he actually likes Albert. Like, they're romantic rivals in a way, but there is a respect between them, and there's a friendship. So it's such an interesting way to put it about it. And Alison Pill is just
The
fantastic in this
best.
film, who plays your fiance. And she's just a force of nature. How is it showing that relationship where there is that love at its core, even if she has, feelings of feeling unfulfilled just because of the time spent at work? How is it like finding that balance in your two scenes?
I mean, look, when you get to work with someone as incredible as Allison, you almost just go into a responsive state, it's she's so giving, she's so present, she's so prepared, she's just ready to try new things, she's thought deeply about the materials. So it's a gift. I've always wanted to work with Allison, and that was a huge part of the reason of wanting to do this. And if anything, just left me wanting more. It's hard to be the the fiance who's a bit at a distance and not engaging enough when Patrick, the actor, was like, I just want to hang out with Alison Pill and do more scenes. Like I had to really play I'm sorry, I've got to work because, truthfully, getting to do scenes with Allison, I would do that forever. So it was terrific and, I hope we get to do more together.
That's a great story. And you have the Madison coming up. How exciting is it getting to work with Taylor Sheridan? Because he's his own empire now. He has like a dozen shows going.
It is pretty wild. There's not much I can say about it, but I will say that it's already been one of the biggest, craziest, most wonderful jobs I've ever had. And to witness not just Taylor, but his whole sort of world and people who have worked with him, to watch that machine at work is truly impressive. So yeah, it's I'm so excited to be able to talk more about that when it's coming out into the world. But it's been a phenomenal experience so far, and
Yeah,
talk about an incredible cast. Every day I go to work just shocked that I'm in the kind of company that I get to keep. So
yeah, that's incredible. And two more questions for you, real quick. You directed a short film a few years back called "We Are Here." Do you have any further aspirations as a writer or director going forward?
God, yeah. Writing's really tough for me. My wife is a prolific and talented writer, and she's always encouraging me to write more. So I would like to be able to find the time to do that. Directing for sure. I love directing. I would love to find something to do, whether it's a feature or more television. I don't know. But yeah, deeply passionate about that. I love being behind the camera. I'm a photographer when I'm not acting. That's like my second passion, and so getting to combine those two things is a dream for me.
Awesome. I'd love to see you behind the camera again. And Suits obviously blew up in popularity. It was already very successful, and then it just became like the most popular show in the world. Suits LA is coming up. Would you be down for an appearance if it made sense?
Yeah, if it made sense. I still keep in touch with all those guys. Aaron's obviously running the show. We're doing this podcast about Suits now, and he's been really active and helpful there. And so many other directors that I know are going to direct Suits LA are still close friends of mine. So, never say never. I think for all of us, we just want to make sure it was the right fit and a good story, and that it made sense. So, we haven't put any pressure on the situation. I know they have Gabriel going back now, which hopefully will be great for that show, and fans would love to see Harvey back in the suit. But yeah, maybe in time. I don't know. We'll see. I'm certainly not closed off to it.